Welcome back to Creative Questions. On today's episode, we have Meg Lewis. Meg Lewis is an artist, performer, and educator celebrating play through nonconformity, blending personable art and design with inspiring interactive talks and workshops that empower individuals to unlock their most unique potential. And on the episode, we talk about how you find your own unique style, what the heck is stage combat, and we ask the question, why is Meg always clowning around? I hope you enjoy this episode. Here's Meg. All right. I think we're good. Are we good?
We're good.
Okay, we made it. Technical difficulties, which always happen.
Always.
It's always.
You know what it is? It's I have to be doing something with my hands at all times.
Yes.
So whenever I'm at my desk, I typically have a fidget toy up here on my desk, and I don't right now. So my hands wander around for whatever's around, and a lot of times that's chords. And so I'll just be twiddling away at all the chords, and then I'm just disconnecting everything in the process. But luckily, I have hot glue sticks for some reason on my desk, so you might just see me waving them around every so often.
You
have a fidget highlighter?
Yeah. One, I think it was the other day, I had a stapler. Someone was like, is that it was like the big ones, the industrial ones where you can staple like 900 sheets of paper. And they're like, is that a stapler in your hand? Yeah. And I was like, yes. Like, this is keeping me sane right now.
What are you doing down there?
Yeah. If I didn't have this, I would be causing like mischief, and you probably wouldn't. I'd be talking over you. Like, this is how I keep saying it. Like, so I totally understand. Totally get it. How are you doing? How's your week going? What do you got going on today?
I'm doing so good. I recently got a new gym membership, and for some reason, I'm not historically a gym person. Yeah. It's become my whole personality.
Love that.
I am there for like 4 hours at a time because there's a sauna. Mm-hmm. I do the gym, my workouts so leisurely. I take like a 3-minute break between doing literally everything. I'm just sitting there most of the time. Then I go take a shower. I go to the sauna. And then I rinse off. Yeah. And then there's like a massage chair. It's great. So I can't really seem to do anything else right now except slowly pick things up and very slowly put them back down.
I love that. That's what's so fun. Like, the gym is like a whole mentality when you start. You're like, because you got to be serious about it. You're like, I got to I'm paying. I got to go. I got to make sure I get my money's worth.
Yeah, I get why it kind of consumes people's personality, because before like any kind of exercise I did before was always group classes. Yeah. And those are really hard. Yeah. Like, they're hard work. I mean, that's why people don't like working out, because it's difficult. Mm-hmm. And so I would go and dread going. I'd get there and be like, okay, I'm doing it. I don't like it though. And then afterwards I'd go, oh yeah, that was nice. I'm glad I did that. But then it would just happen all over again where I wouldn't want to go. And whenever you're just weightlifting by yourself though, it's not hard. Yes. You just, you just pick it up for like 10 times and you put it back down and you take a leisurely long break. Yep. It's really like, I never feel like it's difficult. And that feels great.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my wife used to do CrossFit. So we would just be like,
oh boy,
we would go and like, the worst habit we had was looking at the workouts before class. Cause they're like, you're doing a mile run.
Oh yeah, the WOD.
Yeah. You're doing a mile run today. And I was like, you thought I'm not coming today.
Yeah, I guess I'm not going then.
But it's so expensive.
Yeah, I think that's why I've never done CrossFit, is because there's too much transparency about what's going to happen.
How you're going to torture me for the next hour. Yeah.
Exactly. If I see what I'm going to do, I'm like, oh, I'm out. Absolutely not doing that.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. It was one of those things where it was like, to a point where it's like, you start getting older and you're like, I don't know if this is the healthiest. So we kind of took a step back from it. It's like you're basically show up trying to kill yourself, and you're like, I don't know if I should probably figure out how to do this like over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
So It was fun though. It was fun while it lasted. So that's exciting though. The gym is always fun. I mean, I love weightlifting. Weightlifting is always like something that I've always done. And then to see kind of the growth within the numbers as you kind of get better at it and everything. So.
Exactly. I know. It's so nice. It's just like relaxing and surprisingly meditative. Yep. And every time I get stronger. And I mean, just the worst part is the amount of protein I have to eat, which is oh my goodness. Nobody talks about that. Yep. It's so cumbersome.
It's so hard to get down. And like people are like protein shakes. And I'm like, those things are disgusting. Like they do not.
They are. Good. And I'd have to have like 5 of them in a day. I can't. I know.
It's a whole thing. So I'm excited for you. But we're going to go ahead and kick off with the first question. I try to do something that talks about kind of your journey and kind of where you started. So the first question is, where does your journey start with being a creative?
Oh dear. Okay. Well, yeah, I think like most people, I have a pretty non-linear journey. I am a product of what I think are my options at the time. So when I knew that I wanted to do something that was going to make the world a better place. So since I was a kid, I mean, I'm assuming most kids have this problem where I was realizing like the truth about the world as a child and was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Why is everybody so mad at each other all the time? I don't get it. I feel like the world could be better and I guess I'll have to make it better. Yeah. And I really thought as a kid that I mean, it's so beautiful. I really thought that I was going to be the one to fix the problems in the world. And which obviously was never going to happen for little Meg, but it did give me the drive to be like, how can I use what the skills that I have in order to do that? And as a kid, I also really wanted to change the world through comedy. When I was a little kid, I went to like comedy camps and improv classes for children, which I don't know if that's weird, gross or some of the exercises. I can't imagine having to see children do that. But anyway, as a kid, I was really excited about doing that. And then I combined that with, I also really liked to make art and I really liked visual art and expressing myself. So I learned how to do all of those things and really hoped that whatever passion would just kind of take over and I'd go that route. And that's kind of how it's been, where I find that a lot of times I am really passionate about one part of that and I'll go 100% for that thing for a while. And then I'll be like, no, I want to do comedy again. So I'll go in that route. And I think that the magic of my career is that it's been a little bit of everything that I find really fulfilling. And what I try to do as much as possible is just put it all together, which I think is really fun because it allows me to mix design and comedy and performance in a way that most other people can't, because most designers aren't performers and most performers aren't designers. Yeah. So it allows me to do something atypical. So that's really where my journey began. And I'm still definitely figuring it out and acquiring more skills and trying to put those into my career as well.
Yeah. I feel like that's the I don't know what it is, but I also feel that where I'm like, I just got to get all the skills. I just got to learn all this stuff. And it's like, maybe that's just a curiosity and we allow ourselves to kind of go after it because we're in this, I think design and creative is so weird, like as a career. Cause like one of those things where it's like, if I was just a normal person collecting all these skills, they wouldn't amount to, like they would be things, but they wouldn't be valued in the same way. But because I'm a creative, I can go get these things and they're like, oh, we'll pay you for that. And it's like, what? Like, so random.
You're so right. It does. Yes. It is interesting because there's that like age-old argument of like, you don't have to monetize everything you're interested in. And I've definitely gone back and forth with my own thinking on that too, where I'm like, why do I always have to think of everything as like part of my business? But I think that's because I have always thought of my like quote unquote business as just me. Yeah. So it is confusing when I am always just acquiring new skills and blending it in, but it's a way for me to just find joy and fulfillment in what I'm doing. And if I can get people to pay me to do the things I enjoy doing the most, that's a win for me.
Yes. Isn't that what everybody wants? Like, I feel like that's the
Yeah.
whole, like, well, if you work, if
That's
you
the dream.
do the thing you love, then it's like you never worked a day in your life. Isn't that the proverb? Like,
That is the proverb.
so I don't know. I feel like I'm in this zone where it's like I'm very interested in a lot of things, and sometimes it's hard to understand how to tell the world what you want them to know or come by this thing when it's like, well, I'm a person, I'm all of these things, and I like just being myself in front of people. So I don't know. I feel like that's the conundrum of the week.
Absolutely. And I really try to be loudly as many things as possible just to prove a point that I think we feel so much pressure all the time to condense ourselves down to like a niche or like be one concise thing.
Yep.
People love to just like assume you're one thing so that they don't have any more problem. Like they can just put you in their little bucket in their mind and move on. It's very easy for people, but nobody is one thing. We're all so complicated. And so, I try to remind myself to not do that and to be very loudly a lot of things just on purpose so that people will try to think of me as all of the things that I am. And it somehow translates, and I don't know how, but it's working.
That's awesome.
I think from like a business building perspective, I would make a lot more money if I was just one thing. Because that's just how the world works. But I am so much more interested in just having a fulfilling life than making money.
For sure.
So I think my job here is to just do my thing and be complicated and allow other people to just observe someone being complicated.
Yeah. Look at this person being difficult. Like,
yeah.
They could be doing things so much. It could be so much more lucrative, and they're just being difficult with everything. And I'm like,
completely.
If I got to be that person, I'll be that person. But yeah, I appreciate that. Like, I really do. Cause I feel like I'm sure it's not just me. There's a lot of, feels like there's just an expectation to be one thing. And that oneness is just so difficult. Like, we're so many things. Like, there's so many, like you said, you're just trying to mash all these things that you love into one, and that makes you. Which makes more sense.
Exactly. And I think that also sometimes I feel really optimistic about where we're headed because I feel like we have more freedom to be different from one another now more than ever. But also the algorithm is like flattening us more and more every day. And I think culturally, we're being rewarded for being as flat as possible and being as like one thing as possible more now than we ever have. So that part is really disheartening, and that's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about and also trying to be loudly not that to prove a point. But it's like, if you want to play the game and win,
for sure,
you just have to be flattened and be the thing that the internet and culture wants you to be. And then you win, but like, is it really winning? I don't think so. So I think you just kind of have to figure out for yourself what success is for you as an individual. And it's taken me a long time to realize that success for me is not actually what it looks like or what I was told it was supposed to look like. And now that I've understood what success is for me and what that definition is uniquely for myself, I'm able to like decide which rules I actually want to follow and which I don't.
For sure. Would you like to share what success looks like for you, even if it's just a little piece of it?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think that for me, success has been like establishing a lifestyle that is ideal for me, and then trying to maintain that lifestyle for as long as possible. And so yeah, it's like for me, at the moment, I have everything I want and nothing more. I feel as successful as I want to be right now. And I have like I've got a rental 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. I've got some pets, I have like a studio space. I got my gym. I have so many friends and I can travel. Like I have the stuff that I need and I don't need anything more. I think for a long time I was chasing that definition of success that we are all taught to chase, which is just like acquiring more and more and like always leveling up in the type of stuff you have, the type of place you live. And I played with that for a while. Like I moved to a different city where I could buy a house. I bought a house and I realized that I did not like owning a house. I felt really insecure because there weren't people on top of me. I love having people above me and below me. And so I learned that I just prefer renting. I don't like solving the problems that come with owning a home. So I went backwards by definition of success by going back to renting. And so I've just had to play with the idea of what I thought I was supposed to have at a certain point in my life versus what I was told, and realize that I actually don't want it that way. For sure. So I had to slowly figure out like what is enough for me in order to just continue to thrive. And for me, success is also just not working that I like to just have fun as often as possible. So if I were to put my head down and play the game and work really hard for 40 years, I would probably make a lot of money and have a lot of things. But I would be really unfulfilled at the end of every day. So for me, success is personal joy and fulfillment, but that's just my values. I have always valued that stuff over money and over having things. So for as long as I can continue to maintain the exact lifestyle I have now, I'm good. And my definition might change eventually, and I might want a yacht or something at some point in my life.
I just want one boat. Like I now live here.
But for now I'm boatless and I'm happy.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's I will say I had like the same experience where I went to school to be an engineer. And I don't even know if it was my dream. It was just always something my mom was like, hey, you're good at science and math. Let's go do this thing. And if you do it, it'll pay all of your student loans right away. And I was like, you know what, Mom? You always got my best interest in mind. And so I went and did it. I hated it, but I thought it was what I was supposed to do. And then I had my son, and I was like, how can I show up every day and be a mentor to this kid who is seeing me go do something that I hate doing? And the universe has multiple times laid me off, and I think it's on purpose. It's like, go do that thing you're supposed to be doing. And so I've taken every layoff kind of as that now. Like, okay, go be who you're supposed to be. The lifestyle is super important. Like, now I'm freelancing. I'm at home. I get to see my son and my wife all the time. And we're in a 2-bedroom. I would like maybe a house. But I'm cool. I think I can hang out here. Like, even if it was like a 3-bedroom apartment, cool. I think we got a little bit more space. We can make that happen. But it's not, the ladder climbing is hard. It's just not your game. Like, it seems like you're playing someone else's game. The rules don't make sense, and you're going to be miserable. Like, have fun.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like, figure out what your own game is and play it just for you.
Yep.
Because you're right. It's a losing battle for everyone if they're just playing a game that was predetermined for them.
Yeah.
Based on somebody that like has like so much more money or power than them usually. So yeah. But it's really hard to break out of that thinking because we were raised with it and our parents were raised with it, and that's just how we've been doing it.
For sure. It's just the programming. And so it's like, I mean, you could do the programming, but it's going to be sad. It's just, you're automatically signing up for sadness. So, but yeah, I love your definition, and I'm very happy that that's the life you're getting to live, especially like getting here is like most of the battle. So like getting here and understanding
exactly
like who you want to be and like what you want to do is all of the battle. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it feels good.
So I'm going to move on to another question.
Great.
So this one is more about kind of what you do. Is there any advice for someone looking for their own unique style? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I love this topic so much because, again, it's like any game we're playing. We're doing this with our style too, whether it's like design style, the way we dress, the way we decorate a space. We're all just kind of doing what we think we're supposed to be doing based on trends, of course. And so I specifically try to separate myself from the version of myself that I think I'm supposed to be, which is really difficult. Most people like can't actually answer this question of identifying who they actually are versus who they were told they're supposed to be. But what I like to do is think back to when I was a kid and ask myself, like, who was I when I was a child before I was influenced and told to be a certain type of person or be a certain type of way? What was I really into when I was a kid that maybe it was unusual, maybe it wasn't, but like what was I really into? What was I attracted to? What were the things I liked doing? What was the things I was like just really into that have stuck with me my whole life? So for me, I was really, really, really into like silent actors that were funny. So like people that were known for being like not their funniness wasn't in their words, but usually in their bodies and faces. And I loved that stuff. Like I loved any kind of like actor that was in that space, and always have, still have. My favorite kind of humor has always been physical comedy, people that are just like funny with their bodies and faces. And I've loved that kind of humor, always have. And I was also like really into mimes for some reason when I was a kid, and that stuck with me. And again, that's like another person that's really expressive with their body and their face. And so that's like really interesting information because I think it's also, when you think about those things, you can ask yourself, how have they inspired me to this day? For me, I have always been really expressive with my face. And I've always loved doing physical art form with my body and like physical activities with my body. And that's definitely informed by that love that I've had for those kinds of people when I was a kid until now. And so you can ask yourself that kind of information. Also, you can ask yourself visually, when you look at those things, what are you seeing? Is there like a color palette emerging? Are there certain textures that are emerging? Whenever I went through this exercise and started to compile like just the data of what I was really into when I was a kid until now, it was like clowns and circuses and mimes and physical comedy and like black and white characters that were really expressive with their face. And it did a couple things for me. It helped me to validate what I actually feel like I'm my most inspired self with. So in the past, I had this issue where I would see somebody wearing something and say like, oh, I love your brown floral pants. Where'd you get them? They'd tell me where they got the pants. I'd go get the pants, put them on myself, and feel terrible in the pants. And then, but whenever I looked through that information about what's been inspiring to me my whole life, that's unique to me, that was with me for my whole life, nothing says brown florals.
Yeah.
Everything says like circus color palette and black and white.
Yeah.
And then I went through my closet and put all of the things that were in those color palettes, and I felt instantly so much better. It felt like me. And so it kind of gave me the permission to like let go of the things that have never made any sense for me as an individual and really tune up and embrace the things that do. And in doing so, and in like diving really deep into every single point of inspiration that's been around with me my whole life, it's really helped me to understand more about myself and make more decisions that are in my personal best interest that aren't necessarily based on what other people are wearing or what the trends are. Now I can see somebody wearing something that I like on them or that I like, but I can say, I love that, but it's not for me. It's for you, and really enjoy that other people are different and have their own unique inspirations that are different from mine.
That is awesome. I've never most people don't do that work. Like that's not something that most people even spend, because again, we kind of write off who we were as a kid. I feel like,
oh yeah, for
that
sure.
That was like a silly, like I was just a silly kid. I like fart jokes. Like and that's kind of like, like all that you like think about. But the exercise of looking back is How long did this whole
Oh, yeah.
process of looking back at yourself as a kid, how long did that actually take?
It definitely took like many painful years of slow realizations, and then I realized I was onto something, and then did more intentional work
Oh,
and
nice.
really streamlined it. And then I was like, okay, how do I teach other people to do this and really streamline it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a long period of time of slow realizations. But once I figured it out, I was like, oh my God, this is the key to everything for me. And in thinking about going back to being a kid, I think it's really interesting because the work that I do with people is like trying to figure out who you actually are and how to embrace that and like create a career that's made uniquely for you. But most people don't know, like, who actually am I, because I'm just a product of the world.
Yeah.
So I do think the key is into thinking back when you were a kid, because when you were a child, you were still learning the truths about the world. And so you were truly your most pure self. You like slowly you start to absorb information about like who you're supposed to be, which might be different from who you actually are. And then slowly we like become more and more conditioned to be just like a boring regular adult. And so I love working with kids for that reason, because they know who they are. And if you ask an adult, like, tell me about yourself, like, what's your personality like? What are you like really into right now? It's just so hard for adults to answer. And if you ask kids that, they can answer you so quickly.
Dang.
It's so beautiful. And so I just think it's like the purest expression of self of whenever it's before anybody's told you like who you're supposed to be. You're just living as yourself and enjoying the world. And so I love that, to know what people were into, because everybody is, even as kids, we're all different and we were all really into different things.
Oh, yeah.
And especially the ones that stuck with us throughout the rest of our lives. Those are really interesting to me, because it's more likely to stick with you for the remainder of your life and be like actually something that is a core to who you are.
Yeah, that is true. I see it even when I was in high school, I would ask some people like, what do you want to do, or who do you want to be? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, it's just I know it's hard, but it's just like, it's so important. I'd rather live a life of not even majority, but like towards the end, I figured it out, and I got to at least spend some time doing the thing I wanted to do. Than like the other way around, where it's like I get conditioned more and more to like be more of how everybody else is. So yeah, that's a fascinating process, and sounds like it would honestly help a lot of, especially creatives. Because I know a lot of times when I have people on, people are like, well, how did they find their creative style? And I feel like this goes along with that also. Like,
yeah, well, also, yeah, it definitely feels like very challenging, because as a creative person, whenever you're, especially like being a designer or an artist, when you're trying to find a style that's unique to you, it really feels like everything's taken.
yes.
And then we're all just looking at Pinterest, and we're all looking at the same inspiration all the time. And so, of course, we all end up making things that look the same. Yeah. And so it really is a matter of like really looking at yourself. From what I like to do is really just look at the data and make lists of like, who am I actually? What are my personality traits? A lot of people don't even know. You can ask friends. That's what I had to do. Who am I? What are my personality traits? What are my skills? What am I good at? What do I know? And then you can start to put those things to visuals. And all of us, like, we might share personality traits in common. We might share lifelong points of inspiration in common. But when you take all of your personality traits, all of your lifelong points of inspiration, all of your skills, and you put them together, it makes you a person that has like a completely different list of things combined. Yeah. And so what I'm really interested in is taking all those pieces of that puzzle and translating them to visuals, so you can express your personality, you can showcase your skills, and you can show off your inspiration all in one place through a visual style. And then that way you can have a style that nobody else possibly could. Yeah. And it's a big puzzle. It's not easy to figure out, but we have the information. It's just figuring out how to actually translate that to visuals. That's the hard part.
Yeah, that's dope. That's actually, that when it comes to like, because I do branding work sometimes, that's how I will like try to create something that's unique. Is it's like
Yeah.
you can't do it with like, all right, penguin. And it's like, well, most people have a penguin, but if I have a penguin with a style, with maybe some colors, and try to smash that together, I'll get something. And the letter B, and you'll get something different in trying to kind of iterate on those things.
I remember back when I first started doing brand design, I would do that like I just assumed this is what people did, and I'm pretty sure this is true, but maybe I'm wrong. Is I would give my clients like 3 different mood boards at the beginning of the project.
Sure.
And I'd go, okay, pick one.
Yeah.
And they would always say, well, we like this part of this mood board, you know, this part of the other one, and then some from the third one. And I'd always be frustrated because I said, oh, I asked you to pick one, but you've just picked pieces from all 3. What am I supposed to do? Those things don't go together. And then I realized, oh, that's how you design something that looks unlike anything else that exists. You put things together that people are not putting together. And that's kind of how I ended up realizing that we can all do this with ourselves, is we're a bunch of, like we said earlier, we're not just one thing. We're all complicated. We're all different things. Stylistically and thematically, we as individuals don't go together, but we do. We exist. We're all so many things. So if we can put all those things together visually, then we can have a style unlike anyone else's.
Dang. Yeah, the mood board thing, I have always gotten frustrated, and now that makes more sense.
Yeah, it's like, I know it is. It's like, couldn't you have just done what I asked and picked one vibe, and then we did the vibe, and then we're done?
Yeah, that's it. We just want to be we want to be. Do what I say, like, and that's a vibe there. I had like the wrong energy when I first started doing branding work, and I don't know if it's like everybody, but my energy was very much like, hey, you should do. My ego knows what you should be doing, and you should do everything I say you should be doing.
Yeah, I'm the professional.
Yeah, I'm the professional. But now it's like, okay, I'll take you where you're at. We can talk through it. Let's figure out what works the best, and that's the energy that I have now. More like mother. I feel like that's how my wife is with my son. It's like, I know you're freaking out right now, but here's the juice and we can talk about it. So yeah, that is perfect. So my next question for you is, what's the most bizarre talent that you possess?
Okay. It's probably my stage combat training that I just finished. I think, which if you ask me this question next year, hopefully I'll have even weirder things to say. I'm in a point in my life right now where I have said so many times to myself, like, oh, that looks fun. I'd like to do that someday. And I just like don't get around to doing it. And this year I'm really just like, oh God, I'm going to do it all. I live in New York City. Yeah. Everything is here. I have to do it. And why not? And when I was a kid and I'd go into all those like acting camps and stuff, my favorite thing we ever learned was some like fake fighting. We learned how to like punch each other, slap each other, kick each other in the stomach. And it was so funny. I was riding high on that skill. Every time I was with friends or at a party, I would like be like, let me show you how to fake punch me. And it was so fun for me as a kid. Like, what kid wouldn't want to learn that skill? So I was like, I live in New York. There's professional stunt actor schools here. Let me like rekindle this passion of mine that I had as a kid. And I really was nervous about doing it because I was afraid that nobody else in my program would be doing it because it was funny.
For sure.
I assumed it's a professional, like it's a stunt combat school. So most of the people in the training programs would be professionals.
Yeah.
So I was very concerned about laughing or being disrespectful.
For sure.
And I went in really like preparing to be as serious as possible, it ended up not being attainable. I've never laughed harder in my life.
Do they laugh?
They definitely were like, I kept apologizing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. This is really funny to me. And they were like, that's okay. because I was in the very beginner class. So really, they were very kind about it. But a lot of times what I would naturally do is I would be really curious about why we're fighting.
For sure.
Like, they never give you a why. So they're never like, okay, no, add dialogue. They don't want they don't ask for dialogue. But I couldn't help myself from adding dialogue. So I'd be like, you left the croutons off my salad. And then I'd pull someone's hair and throw them across the room. And then the other person wouldn't be expecting that. So then they'd laugh and then we'd have to start over. So I was asked to stop adding dialogue. But now I know how to, I know how to pull hair. I know how to do front rolls and back rolls for if you're falling. I know how to fall forwards and backwards and barrel roll to my side. I learned how to, do a leaping somersault to grab a gun. And I learned how to choke people in 3 different ways. But it's all fake. So if I actually need to do like self-defense or anything, I don't know how to really do any of those things.
It's like having fake muscles. You're just like,
exactly.
These
I
actually don't do the thing. Like
it's a silly party trick for me now, but I also have to be with someone who also knows how to do it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Which isn't the most practical.
Hey, you gotta. But
it's a fun thing that now I know how to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like, how many people get to experience that? Like, I was so curious because you put that on the questionnaire. You put stage combat. I was like, what is this? Yeah. I had no clue. I was like, I looked it up and it was like fencing, and I was like, is this like, what is this?
It can be sometimes. There were some. I didn't get advanced enough to learn how to do the fencing and any of the more advanced weapons play. Yeah. So I was simply in fist fighting, except for the moment I got to grab a gun. So if I do continue on, I will learn how to use knives and chains. There's a lot left to learn for me in the world of stage combat.
What if that's your next on stage performance? Is you're just like reenacting all of this stuff?
It could be.
What did I show up for?
Exactly. Right now that's exactly the puzzle I'm trying to fit together. Is how can I take all of these random skills I've learned and put them together?
Yeah, I love that. I love that for you. I don't. It just seems. It does seem like something that would be like super fun. So and that's something that I'm also happy to see adults like more, especially people who I like want to call friends or people that I like view on the internet doing, because I feel like it gives other people such the inspiration to just go out and do whatever you want. Because we should be doing that, right? Like, we shouldn't just be like, oh, well, that would be cool. I'll sit back here and not.
For some reason, it's just terrifying to go to do it.
Yeah.
And I still have that problem where once I get momentum and I start like enrolling in all these silly classes and stuff, it's so fun and easy and freeing because you show up and it's not nearly as scary as you thought. It's actually really fun and fine. But then you stop getting in the habit of doing that, and then you're like, stop getting yourself out of your comfort zone, and then it becomes really scary. Yeah. So you have to you just have to prove to your brain that it's never as bad as you think it will be. And then your brain becomes like more malleable to the idea of trying these new, weird, silly things that you've always wanted to do or been curious about.
Man, I feel like that's even in my day-to-day, the biggest struggle. Is it's like, you got to write a proposal, and my brain's like, nah, you can't do that. That's really hard.
Nah. Yeah.
No. So I feel like that's like a whole lesson in itself. Just like telling your brain to, hey, bro, chill out.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Oh, so. It's like trying to keep us safe all the time, I think. So it's like, no, you just be safe right here. You just sit right here and do nothing.
Oh, no, some days I'm like, yes, thank you. What would I do without your protection? So another question that I wanted to ask is, now that we found out how you put together your sense of style and everything, who are some of your fashion inspirations?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. This is great. Fashion inspirations. Honestly, okay, here's what I've been really inspired by lately. Sometimes, especially being in New York, which is really helpful for this, I'll be like walking down the sidewalk or something and I'll see someone that's dressed very bizarrely to the point where my inner monologue is like, what are they doing? Are they okay? And I think like, ugh, oh no.
Yeah.
That's somehow that has became the like litmus test for my brain to become inspired, because whenever I do that, I always stop myself and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why are you judging that person? Do you care what they're wearing? And then I think for a second and I go, wait, no, I actually don't. That's really cool that they're just wearing like these things, like a combination of things I've never seen before that I never thought somebody would be, sane enough to wear or something. And that's lately turns into so much inspiration because it's rooted in such like shame of and like embarrassment of me imagining myself wearing something like that and how uncomfortable it would make me. And I realize in processing it that's why I'm judging them, is because I am not brave enough to do it myself.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to really like go, oh, wow, they are free. They have the freedom that I hope to have someday. And so that's what I've been really inspired by lately. And it really makes me sad that it starts with like a judgment about them. But I realize we all do it. And it's a judgment that my brain doesn't even actually agree with. It's a judgment that was definitely put in there by the world.
For sure.
So yeah, it's a challenge for me. Every time I judge someone, I always go, whoa, 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 whoa. Do you even agree with that? And I almost never do.
Yeah. And that's great. I mean, I've been having that conversation with people lately because I've noticed that like some of those thoughts come through and you're like, whoa, that was messed up. Like, why'd you think that? And then you're like, but the second step is to be like, brain, you don't really think that. It's just the outside world kind of got in and got out.
Exactly.
So,
again, your brain's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. I was just trying to keep you comfy. I'm trying to keep you safe. Never mind. My bad.
But that's so fun. How much, like, I feel like New York probably has to give you so much, like, inspiration just in general. I feel like it's always moving. It's one of those places that, like, intimidates me a little bit because I'm like, I don't know if I could be moving as fast as New York moves.
Yeah. Yeah. I lived in New York when I was in my early 20s as well. And that was actually the most helpful for me because I grew up in the Midwest in an environment where if I wanted to be a little bit different, everyone would notice because there weren't people that were being a little bit different. So in New York, a beautiful thing happens where the culture here is everybody minds their business.
Yeah.
So if somebody's a little bit different, everyone ignores them, which is exactly what I needed to explore who I was, because I could try new things, try being a little bit different, and nobody would pay any mind to me. Like everybody would just ignore me. Whereas in the environment I grew up with, if I tried something new, everyone would point it out. And like even just acknowledging that I was doing something new was enough to scare me away. So being in an environment where everyone just completely ignored me, even though I was like doing something that was bold and brave for me, was so helpful for my own self-confidence. And it gave me the permission I needed to continue to try that. So New York is really good for that. You see, there's always someone doing something weirder than you. So it gives me the safety and the comfort to always be comfortable being a little bit different or like a little bit weird here, because there's so much going on and nobody is fazed by you being a little weird. Yeah, no one's phased.
Just riding the subway and you're like, that was weird. Like, because I have a grandma who lives in Brooklyn and I've been there before.
Oh, nice.
And I'm just like a couple times and I'm like, dang, this is a strange place, but we're all just getting to our next stop on the subway train. Like,
yeah, we're all together. I know. It's really in many ways, it's very beautiful. It's very helpful for me as someone who grew up in an environment where everyone looked pretty similar.
For sure.
It's very comforting to me to be in an environment where it's all everyone's different. I get to hear different languages being spoken around me all the time. And we're all just like getting through life together. It's very helpful for me. And it's very comforting to me. So I feel like once I had it, it was really hard to leave that environment and go and anywhere. Even when I visit home, it's really difficult for me to go back to where I'm like, oh my God, I look around, I'm like, everyone's just a copy and paste of the same person. This is wild.
And they're all still here.
Where's everyone getting their hair done? Yeah. It's all the same.
it's probably, yeah. Can I guess the Midwest? Because I'm from the Midwest too. So I like to play this game where I guess where people are from the Midwest.
That's fun. Sure.
I feel like you give off the vibe of someone from like in Ohio.
Oh, I love that. No.
Okay.
I know many good people from Ohio.
One more.
One more.
Kansas.
This is really fun. Oh my God, you're so close. I will count that as correct because I am from Kansas City, but I'm on the Missouri side.
Okay. I'm from Missouri too.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's so funny. I hated Missouri. I still don't. I'll go back and like my dad's still there. Because I grew up in like a military town, so it was a little different. Being in a military town in Missouri is different. Not the same. But when you would travel 20 minutes and you were in it, and you're just like, oh yeah, I do not hate. I hate being here.
Yeah. I think that. Well, I grew up in a suburb of Kansas City, which. Okay. To credit Kansas City, I think it's much better now, but I just had like too much trauma growing up in high school. I just knew it wasn't for me, so I left as soon as I could and never went back. And so now I just can't see it the same way as I think other people that live there can. So I'm sure it's a great town now. Yeah. They've got lots of good stuff now, but for me, it's like it's too late.
Yeah, it's over. You had your chance. You had your chance to date me. You had your chance to court me and marry me. You lost it. Yeah, I'm out of here. My brother's like, yeah, come live in Kansas City with us. No, I will not. I'm good. I talked to my mom about it like a couple years ago, and she was like, yeah, you were ready to go as soon as you turned 18. You were like ready to get out of there. And I was like, I don't feel like I was. She was like, yes. I'm like, okay, I'm glad I did then. I'm glad first train out, I was out of there. It just is not the vibe. You could just say it's just not the vibe. I'm down here in Phoenix, so I like Phoenix a little bit more. It's still a little too conservative for my taste. But I see the sun every day, and I think that equates to a lot.
That helps. Yeah. I mean, I'm a really big fan of moving around. I've moved around to a lot of cities, and it really helps you to understand what you value and what's like what makes you whole out of a living experience and a city. And I now have so much information about what I need, and mostly it's just I need to be able to like walk wherever I go. I've realized that's really important to me. So I think everybody has things that are more important to them. And there's really only one way to find out is by trying different environments and learning and getting yourself where you deserve to be, where you feel at home. And I really value people that are willing to move around and try it out and take a risk.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not anyone who's like, I've been here my whole life. Why? There's one point in your life where you should have got it and left. Like,
because their brain is like, oh, sweet baby, you just stay here forever.
Yeah.
You don't need to try anything new. I got you. Just go to sleep.
Just sleep forever. Okay, so this is the last question that I ask everybody. This podcast is called Creative Questions. So the last question is about creativity. So what does creativity mean to you? And this is open-ended. Whatever you're feeling for the day, you can go with it.
Yeah. I think that it makes me really sad when people say they aren't creative because I think everyone is creative. Yes. Creativity to me is an expression of self, and we can do that in so many ways, and we are currently all doing it in so many ways. It's not just, I think people have their own definition of what a creative person is, And that's just not true. Everyone is creative in their own way, and it's just a matter of figuring out and identifying how you've been creative your whole life, because we're all doing it in some capacity. So yeah, it's mostly just identifying how you can express yourself and feel like you are playing and having a good time in that self-expression. So there are so many facets in which you can be creative. And it's more so just figuring out what's the right path for you in creativity and what feels the best for you to express yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And something you hit on was play. I feel like I saw that you're a big advocate for play, and it feels like that's one thing that, like, as an adult, people have a harder time doing, is like playing and having fun and being curious.
Yeah.
And it's curiosity and play are right next to each other.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. It's like letting your brain become free is really difficult for adults.
Yeah.
Like just creating without like assuming anything will happen is really difficult for adults. Having no boundaries is really difficult. Like not making it perfect or having a perfect outcome is really difficult for adults. And if you can just like be a little bit silly and let yourself be silly, it's so helpful to actually be creative whenever you just let yourself go. And usually you can like find better outcomes whenever you're able to actually just like live louder, like take action louder than your inner critic.
For sure. Yeah.
And actually make things before your brain can stop you and tell you to do something different.
Oh, I love that. I feel like that's an exercise. You love giving people an exercise to go do.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
All right, Meg, where can people find you on the internet?
Yay. My handle is @yourbuddy_Meg or meglewis.com.
I love that. Is there anything you want to share, you want to promote, put out there?
On my website, you can take my Find Your Style class if you're interested in going through the steps that I outlined earlier. There's a lot more too, to find your own style. I also have like some free classes where you can identify what kind of information that you have that you could share with the world to make the world a better place. And there's a lot of more fun articles and stuff on my website too.
Love it. Love it. This was so
Yay.
great. I'm so glad I got to meet you today.
Yeah, you too, Cam. Oh
such
my
a fun
goodness. This
person.
was fantastic.
Thank you. But I appreciate your time, and I hope to catch you on the internets.
Oh yeah, see you on the internet.
All right, peace.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Creative Questions. Like, comment, or subscribe to allow us to keep making more episodes. I appreciate you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one.